Hey there, I'm Alex Lawson here. I'm live at the AccuWeather headquarters here in Penn State, Pennsylvania. Penn College, State College, that is. I'm joined by Brittany Boyer. Brittany, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for making the trip here to Central PA.
We are so glad to be here, and we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about the hurricane season for 2018. We'll take a few minutes to talk about what we learned in 2017, which was obviously a very big, active year. And then obviously the most important part for the next few minutes, we'll talk about how you can keep your family safe, what you can do as severe weather comes closer to your area. So Brittany, let's talk about 2018 for a few minutes here. What are we learning so far about 2018, and what do we expect for this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of anticipation for this upcoming season. We're coming off the heels of a crazy 2017. I mean, we just had storm after storm last year. Now, for this year, I don't do our actual forecast, but we have a group of long-range forecasters here at AccuWeather, and they come up with this hurricane forecast. I sat down with one of them last week, and he said that they actually started looking at this hurricane season in December. So they've been kind of looking at the climate models for the last couple of months, and for this year we're anticipating a near normal to a slightly above normal season. Now, I don't want everybody to focus in on that slightly above normal season after last year, but at this point we're expecting as many as 12 to 15 named storms, 6 to 8 hurricanes potentially, and we could be looking at 3 to 4 landfalls here in the United States. Now, we just had subtropical storm Alberto, which did make landfall on Memorial Day, so that kind of counts. That was an early season storm, but at this point we are expecting the possibility of an active season. It kind of plays a part on the water temperatures. Worth noting right now, last year at this time, the ocean was extremely warm in the main development region, which kind of aided to last season being very active. At this point, it's cooler than last year, and it's cooler than normal. So we're in a good spot right now. We'll just have to see how things go in the coming months.
So one question here from Ricky. He wants to know, is there anything in the tropics right now? I guess it's pretty calm.
Yeah, right now it's pretty calm. We have a couple of tropical waves that are out there, but at this point, none of them are really on our radar for tropical development. So this week, we're in good shape. We're hoping for a quiet week, and we're hoping for a quiet season.
That's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about 2017 here. I mean, it was a busy year. We had Hurricane Harvey. We had Hurricane Irma. We had Hurricane Maria. It was very busy. Yeah,
I remember working here, and it just felt like, oh my God, we can't catch a break. It was storm after storm. There were 17 named storms last year, which obviously is an above normal season. And 10 of those storms were hurricanes. And we didn't just have 10 hurricanes, they were in succession. So we had hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. It went on for a while, but I think a lot of people probably remember Harvey.
That's right.
That was an extremely devastating hurricane, especially in Texas. There was somewhere that had 60 inches of rain, which was the most rainfall from a tropical cyclone in the United States history. But every storm really had its takeaway from it. The rain in Harvey, the storm surge. Then you had Hurricane Irma, the strongest Atlantic hurricane on record. It was a Category 5 hurricane for over 3 days, and that made landfall in 7 different places. 2 in the United States, a lot of small islands in the Caribbean. I mean, they were pretty much destroyed out there from that storm. And then you had Maria, which, I mean, everybody still knows Maria. You have Puerto Rico that's still trying to pick up the pieces from that storm. So a lot to take away after last year.
Yeah, we should point out we learned a lot from our storm season last year. When it came to Hurricane Harvey, it was as you mentioned, a huge rainmaker. I mean, it was a significant flood like you've never seen in that part of Texas. What was fascinating about that storm, and what was interesting about us as a company there, is our network handled really, really well. We had some 98% of our network worked following that storm, which was pretty impressive. And then after Hurricane Irma hit Florida, we had a 90% of our network worked after that storm. So we take a lot of pride in making sure that our network and our equipment is there up and running and ready to go when these kind of storms come into these cities and towns. So it's interesting. Getting some questions here. Tamika asks, what has AccuWeather learned from the 2017 season that they'll use this year?
I think last year, a big takeaway with the storms are that you really can't underestimate the power of tropical cyclones. Last year we had an extremely warm ocean, and that was just the fuel for these storms to keep growing. So I think we learned that, maybe when we have a powerful storm like we did with Harvey and with Irma and Maria, we really have to look at that a little more closely. What is the potential of this once it makes landfall? Could we be looking at 4 feet of rain like we did in Harvey? So I think that's kind of the takeaway for us here from a meteorological standpoint. But I will say, I think, you know, the saying, it gets worse before it gets better. Last year, it was bad. But I think because we were in that spot last year, there's a lot more public awareness going forward that, you know, people are scared after last hurricane season. And not that we want to scare the public, but I think it's a good thing that these things did happen, and going forward, hopefully people have more public awareness of what hurricanes can do, how much rain you can see, what the winds can be like.
Gotcha. I'm going to ask you to come in the shot a little bit more, to come in this way a little bit as we get some more questions here. What are some of the things that when you guys are talking to your viewers out there, what do you tell them as far as how to get ready for the storm season? I mean, some things that we tell our folks and our customers is make sure your cell phones are charged, make sure you have extra batteries on, make sure you have a plan. What kind of things do you recommend for folks who are watching the weather?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, we always like to get the warnings out, what people need to know, where the storm's going to be heading, where that cone is going to be. But something else that's really important for the people that live say in an evacuation area or along the immediate coast, know where your evacuation route is. You don't want to be in that traffic gridlock, everybody trying to put that plan into place when you actually have to do it. And also make sure you have everything ready to go in the event that an evacuation is issued. Make sure you have water for your entire family, enough food, as you mentioned, batteries, cell phone chargers. Make sure you have all the important papers. A lot of people forget about that. Identification. Make sure you have flood insurance. Last year with Hurricane Harvey, 85% of the people impacted didn't have flood insurance. So that's something now that you should be looking into. A
couple of things that you can do as well is maybe you can use your phone or your tablet to take videos of your house for insurance purposes. That's always important. You never know when you might have to circle to that. Let's talk about the water and the storm surge. That's really significant, and it could be some of the most damaging part of these storms.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how a lot of people tragically lose their lives. You have the rising water right at the coast, and at times you can see storm surge reaching over 12 feet, even 20 feet. Storm surge and also flooding. A lot of deaths. Last year in 2017, we saw more deaths from flooding than anything else in the weather field, whether it's tornadoes, heat. Flooding was our leading cause of death. So definitely storm surge has to be taken very seriously. We always say turn around, don't drown. I mean, it goes without saying, it takes 6 inches of water just to sweep an adult off their feet. So.
Yeah, and same with driving too. It only takes a couple inches for it to.
12 inches.
Yeah, that's something to remember. A few more questions here. Todd's asking, will the stronger than normal Sahara air layer last longer than normal over Atlantic this season? Sounds like a meteorological question. I'll throw that to you.
The Saharan dust, usually that prohibits the growth of hurricanes. I'm going to bounce that question to one of our hurricane experts. Hopefully he can tune into our Facebook Live and answer that question for you.
Okay.
Specifically, I don't know all the details about that. We're more interested this year on the ocean water temperature.
Sure.
Right now it's cooler than normal, so we're in good shape there. But we're going to have to watch that as we head into July, August, and also September, the peak hurricane season. If we can get that water a little bit warmer, and also the wind shear. Right now we're in a good spot with that, but as wind shear starts to weaken into the summer, that's where things get a little more favorable for development.
Here's a question here from Elizabeth. What if the power goes out for several days? Will I lose connectivity? Which is a fascinating question, and it's one we take very seriously here. Is we make sure that our networks are working all the time. Our teams are out there months and weeks ahead to making sure that all the equipment is ready to go and that it's there when the severe weather hits. And we also, if severe weather hits the area, we have what we call our barnyard. I don't know if you've heard about this. We're going to take you, this is a little interesting here. We have cows, we have colts. And basically what these are cell on wheels. These are cells on light trucks. So we can bring this equipment in to an area that's been hit by weather. So making sure that people have that connectivity for first responders, for our customers. And it's really important to have when you have these storms that come through the area here. Let's see, what else? Questions here. Talk about the backup. So we do have, there's another important thing we should talk about here. We have a lot of backup power for our cell towers here. And we take a lot of pride in making sure that that equipment's worked. So we have backup power, we have backup generators, we make sure that these things are refueled. We have a refueling process to make sure that's taken care of weeks out and months in advance to make sure that that's going up to speed as well. let's talk about what else do you think we learned about 2017 as far as a weather, Sam, from a meteorology side?
I think it was really just, you can't underestimate the power of some of these storms.
Right.
Last year, although it seemed like a crazy active season, it actually wasn't the most active hurricane season since the 1800s. But that being said, we had a lot of destruction last year, over $250 billion in damage from Harvey, Irma, Maria in itself. So I think we can't underestimate the power of some of these storms. We had, I believe it was 6 major hurricanes last year. All of those had winds over 111 miles per hour. And a lot of people think, you know, if you were struck once, you can't be struck again. Not exactly true. We had some small islands in the Caribbean that were brushed by multiple major hurricanes. So, you know, until it's at your doorstep, people don't really think about that. But I think it's really important to think that, you know, this could be in your backyard essentially one day if you live along the immediate coast or any of the islands out in the Caribbean. Yeah,
that's a very good point here. Let's see. Let's talk about some other things here. We'll talk about more of our backup power here, and I want to talk about this, and also want to talk about our drones, what we have when it comes to drones, because the last couple of years we've talked about how we can take our drones out into the damaged areas and take a look at how our cell tower is doing, how our equipment's doing, and we can kind of see what we're doing with drone technology. And drones have become awesome tools when it comes to weather.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really been fascinating to watch. What else are you looking forward to as far as this weather season here? What else you're eyeing, or you kind of keeping an eye on?
You know, I'm hoping for a quieter season this year. Coming after last year, it was so hard coming into work every day and just seeing new images of small islands that were essentially wiped out, hearing how many deaths there were. I'm hoping that this year is a little less active, but all it takes is one storm. And we're ready here at AccuWeather for whatever the season has in place. But at this point, there's nothing on the horizon. A couple of computer models the last week were hinting to maybe the second week in June seeing something. But right now, there's nothing on the horizon. But of course, we're not into the peak of the hurricane season yet. It only just started last week. So we still have several months to go until November 30th. Hurricane season isn't over just yet.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. Come back in the shot here.
All
we'll
right,
wrap up. That's all right.
over.
That's all right. I'm doing the same thing too. I think another thing that's important that we should realize is that you've got to have a plan, and for your family, and make sure you do all those things way ahead of time and don't wait until the last minute. Is there one thing that you think it's like, gosh, you must do this before this, you know, the storm comes to your neighborhood or comes to your city?
You know, I think it's having that plan, not just you yourself having a plan. Make sure your family's all on the same page. In the event that maybe the kids are at school, maybe you're at work, and all of a sudden there's a mandatory evacuation. I think it's important that, you know, practice that with your family. Don't wait until the day of an evacuation to really put that into place. So make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have everything that's necessary. A gallon of water for each family member for at least 3 days. So a lot of items to make sure that you're prepared for the season.
And make sure you've got all your cell phone equipment ready to go. You've got your batteries so that you can have all that when an emergency hits. We really appreciate you all watching. Thanks for all your questions. Nice chatting with you.
Welcome to Central PA.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and stay tuned for all your information throughout the whole season.